Commander Shepard reporting to duty, sir. Hercules, Hercules.
As long as you can. Oh, the cat. We got our first subscriber. We're on our way. Chris. Is it rewatchable?
Yeah.
Who is that movie for? For somebody that hates their lives.
Roads, where we're going, we don't need roads.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Let's get it on. In 5, 4, 3.
I'm Tony.
I'm Trey.
And I'm Chris. Hey guys, this is the Trey Show, where we like to talk about a variety of topics and stories that have no common thread other than we find them really interesting. On the show, we're going to share our totally unqualified opinions on whatever the hell we want. We're going to have a good time doing it. We hope you guys do too. Today's stories range from Nintendo, laughing at Microsoft, gaming console hardware shortages, and personal pet peeves. So let's get right into it. So guys, we're going to start with the stories of the week. First up is Nintendo laughing at Microsoft for trying to buy them. So it's been 20 years since the original Xbox was unveiled at 2001 CES. Bloomberg has done a pretty extensive oral history of how the console came into existence, so it's something worth checking out. But there's some pretty interesting nuggets in the story, including Microsoft pitching to buy Nintendo. And according to someone from Microsoft that was in the room, he said they were basically laughed out of the building. Before we join in the laughter, it's worth noting that Microsoft's pitch at the time was actually pretty good because Nintendo was lagging behind Sony when it came to hardware. What they wanted to do was create a joint venture where they offered the hardware and let Nintendo focus on software creation, which Microsoft acknowledged was their strength. It was also revealed that Microsoft tried to buy EA. They said no. Square, also a no. But they eventually bought Bungie and snagged the Halo franchise, which clearly became a cornerstone of the console. So guys, what do you guys think about this?
So I can start here. I have a couple thoughts. So timeline, which that's the first thing that I looked up when I saw this story. The Nintendo 64 launched in 1996, right? So I would say, you had Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64 was the first. Well, there's a Virtual Boy in there too. Nintendo 64 was the first big follow-up. That was still really good. You had the Game Boy Advance, and then the GameCube came out in 2001. So remember too, before this happened, Nintendo and Sony had a deal to release I think it was called the Nintendo PlayStation, right? There's prototypes. So they were partnering on a CD-based console. Nintendo, I think, was, they were excited to do that. So Microsoft enters in 2000 or 2001, like you said. Nintendo, I think, is already prepping the GameCube, which we know didn't do that great. I think there were some really good games on there, kind of like the Dreamcast. Like, we all love it, but it wasn't like a commercial success. Tony, I'm looking at you for the Dreamcast. I know you love the Dreamcast. So I think it's an interesting position where Nintendo was coming out of, where they already had that mishap with Sony and basically got embarrassed, left at the altar or whatever. They had the GameCube in production, and then Microsoft comes in that, like you were saying, is a hardware company and Nintendo being a software company. So I can see them hearing that pitch and just going, like, we've already been through this. Why in the world will we do that? And then the other thing I want to say is Nintendo's kind of always taken their own path, right? Well, I don't want to say always, because it was pretty similar up to the probably the GameCube. And then after that is when they really started focusing on the handhelds, right? They started focusing on the Nintendo DS. The Wii was obviously a huge success for them. But before the Wii came out, everybody was like, wow, Nintendo's on its way down. We don't know what they're going to do. So the thought that they could produce, I guess it would be third party or their first party titles for other consoles made a lot of sense because they were so good at the software end. So the Wii obviously changed that. We all know the story of all the units that they sold. The Wii U, I think, would have continued that, but they did such a poor job of naming it and marketing it, like we were talking about for the Xbox One, Xbox One X, Xbox Series X, One S, Series S. It's confusing. So nobody knew when they went to go buy the new Nintendo system. It's like a Wii U, and they're like, well, that's I know the Wii. Everybody knew the Wii. That was one of the first mainstream consoles. So I don't know. It's just interesting Nintendo's path, and they kind of carved out this niche with their first party titles. But you see people walking around, whether you talk to people that are playing and oh my God, I'm blanking on it. The new console for Nintendo.
Switch.
The Switch. They're playing the Switch and they're playing Pokemon. They're playing Breath of the Wild. They're playing Super Mario Odyssey. I know there's some other ones, but everybody that I talk to now, they're like, oh yeah, I'm playing Pokemon. So I think that's a really interesting story, but it's been interesting how Nintendo's been able to have so much success in that market.
So I think one of the things that's interesting too that you comment about Nintendo is they do like to go their own way. Nintendo reminds me quite a bit about Apple. And so if you look at the way when Apple came up versus Microsoft, Apple is very much about a closed system. They want the hardware and the software closed, right? They're not about licensing and distributing it across different platforms. Microsoft was the opposite, right? Their business model was actually very open. Our software can go on any kind of hardware. So it's interesting that was their mentality. It makes sense while they would approach Nintendo. But I think what they underestimated was Nintendo's mindset, similar to Apple's, which is that to them, it was that closed architecture system. I want control of the hardware and the software. And that's how, we know that our games are going to be done and played the way we want. They want it on their controllers and their setup, whether it was the Wii U, whether it was the Switch. Like they have a specific experience in mind, and that includes both the hardware and the software. So, I think my respect for Nintendo has grown over the years, and I've come to better understand their philosophy and their mindset, because I used to be more of in the Microsoft's camp where I wish that they would have just created Mario for some of these more advanced systems. But you got to respect their commitment to their model, and it's hard to argue with some of the success that they've had for sure. Tony, I don't know if you have any thoughts.
I just got a few, really. I mean, so I'm going to look at it more from just, you guys have always been super into games, super into consoles, super into the news in it and like all the facts and stuff. And that's like, I usually wait for y'all to start talking and then I kind of jump in because I'm like, oh yeah, I'll piggyback on that or whatever. But the first thing that came to my mind, this may not have anything to do with it, was just how much I had heard. Like I watched a few documentaries about it. And I remember, it was in the news and all things like that, was when they allowed another company to have access to Mario to make that movie, right? Like it was just a shit show. The movie was horrible.
Now
like
you're talking
basically,
about, just to clarify, you're talking about the Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah, the Mario Brothers movie with John
right.
Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins. So I remember in one of the documentaries, and it might have been just like a YouTube special that someone did on their own, they were basically saying how like Nintendo, the creator of Mario, after that was like, we're never going to work with any other company ever again. So to see, to imagine Microsoft coming in to, I would guess this may be super stereotypical, but I would guess that meeting took place in Japan. I don't know, maybe not. To take over or to ask if they could acquire them, being laughed out of the building. Yeah, that seems about right. They've made that mistake before of partnering up with another company and letting someone have rights to one of their most precious character ever, just the way I'm sure Xbox feels about Master Chief, things like that. Yeah, I could see that happening, being laughed at. That would suck. But I mean, I've always been a fan of Nintendo. There was a few years when I got into Xbox and PS2 and things like that, where I was like, man, I wish they would just come out with something that could compete with this. Because at the time I felt like they were lacking a little bit. But I mean, my girls, they love the Switch. I mean, I can't, every time I come and play with Warzone with y'all, I mean, they're playing Pokemon, they're playing Animal Crossing, some other little game with like a little guy that just rolls around and sticks to walls and things like that Tish is like obsessed with. Like she got mad at, we were laying in bed and I was watching something and like she just like slammed something down and like rolled over and turned the light off, and I was like, oh God, what did I do? And it was just because she couldn't get past a level. Yeah. And it's cool to see that, that passion for a Nintendo game again from someone in my family.
Their games are accessible, so they appeal to a broader audience, right? So when somebody picks up an Xbox controller, there's so many buttons, and I know Nintendo they've added more buttons, but just the Nintendo games to me have always been a little bit more simple. So for somebody that's not a hardcore gamer, they can pick up a Switch or a Wii, with the Wiimote. I mean, that was a huge deal, right? Wii Sports, how fun was that? So I think it's a lot more accessible for people. So, and that's something that Nintendo's done a really good job at.
So the other thing that they do, and we can kind of bring this to a close, but the one last comment I was going to make, Trey, is that I think they use their software to also introduce audiences to the hardware. So if you think about the Mario games,
Yeah.
each generation of Nintendo hardware, there's always a Mario game, and that Mario game, the platform. Look at, you go back to Mario 64 on the N64, right? It showed off the 3D capabilities of that platform. You know, you look at the Marios that came out on the Wii U versus the Switch. They show, you know, basically what the graphics are capable of, and then how it's supposed to integrate really naturally. So I think Nintendo probably does a better job of that than almost, you know, any company, to be honest with you. You know, leveraging the intellectual property, the characters, the games, evolving those games in ways that are quality, but then also leveraging the strengths of the new hardware to really kind of showcase what it can do. So Nintendo still really does excel at that. So it'll be interesting to see where they go, especially now post Switch, as you start to see the Xbox Series X, the PS5 being as powerful as they are.
Well,
So
and think
that's
about
actually,
the DS and the 3DS. Like, I mean, the Switch, we think about it as a portable game system, and it is, but it's also the main one when they still have the handhelds that are going. I mean, people still buy Game Boys.
yeah,
It's great.
yeah.
It's amazing.
GoldenEye.
Hey,
Best game ever. Best game ever.
GoldenEye
One of the
and
best
Mario
games
64, Mario 64 and
10,
GoldenEye
IGN
are
10.
what would you rate that, Chris, on the IGN scale? No, those are two of the most revolutionary games. I mean, obviously Halo kind of changed the first-person shooter for the console. You got to give that to Wolfenstein or Doom overall, but
Doom, yeah. Doom and
yeah, I
Wolfenstein.
mean that was game changer. Duke Nukem a little bit also, but just those games on the Nintendo 64 were so revolutionary. We had never seen anything like that.
So Mario on the N64, the Japanese version gets a 10. So I had the N64 out of Japan and the Mario 64 out of Japan. So there was no English instructions whatsoever. So things that were pretty straightforward when you're playing the US version of the game, you had to completely figure out to get all the stars. I mean, so that was it was an amazing experience. That would have been a 10.
There was
All right, so let's bring
There was no internet when we played that either. Sorry.
No, not really. All right, so let's bring this conversation to a close, and let's transition now into the next segment, which is really around just the next gen hardware. It's selling out everywhere. So there's never been a better time to be a gamer, but there's never been a worse time to try to secure the latest and greatest hardware, whether it's from Nvidia, Microsoft, Sony. Trey, ordering the Nvidia RTX 3080 GPU has been a nightmare. The Xbox Series X hardware and the PS5 hardware has been on constant back order. People struggled to get it for Christmas. There's no doubt legitimate supply chain challenges that exist, but what are the responsibilities of the manufacturers to ensure that there's sufficient supply to meet demand, especially when they're releasing it during the holidays and they're creating this hype in the marketplace for it?
So I agree that there's a responsibility for them to be able to meet some of the demand. What I think they've really failed at is the strategy to get their products to consumers or to allow consumers to secure the products, right? So if you go to Apple on an iPhone launch day or on an iPad launch day and they're sold out, right? What do? They allow you to pay for it or to prepay for it. And they say, okay, even if you go on apple.com, you can secure this and it's going to be shipped out in March for the new AirPod Studios. You can go on there and buy one today, but you just won't get it until they're ready and shipped out. The problem is for the Nvidia GPUs, for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox, there's nowhere where you can just go and say, I want to pay for it. When it ships, then you send it to me. So it's creating this frenzy of people having to refresh websites, and you have the whole bot issue. So there's all these issues where, and again, I go back to Apple because I think they have the process correct where, hey, I can secure one and I can do what I want to do. The other thing is the scalpers are obviously out of control because they don't have a way for people to go and secure one. So you have bots and people that are buying up, and you see it on Instagram and on Twitter, people that have 20 or 30 of said product, and they're scalping them for 50% or 100% over the retail value. So I think the Apple method and strategy would actually solve a whole lot of that. But it definitely is on the manufacturers to be able to get these products in their consumers' hands. While I know you can't always meet demand, but you can have a proper way for people to go and make sure that they secure one.
But Apple analogy, they still do a better job of having enough hardware on hand at launch. So when there are backlog or back orders for products, it's just fairly rare. I mean, yes, they'll do a large iPhone launch, but for the most part, you'll find, you can get a new iPhone. And to your point, if you can't, you can get it pretty quickly after. Maybe sometimes like the initial iPad launch, the iPhone 3G launch, the iPhone 4G launch, certain upgrades maybe have a bigger impact on the marketplace and are a little bit harder to get. But never has it been as hard to get anything Apple related, in my opinion, as it is to get some of the things like whether it be the new Nvidia card, the Xbox Series X. And I think to me, it leaves a bad taste in consumers' mouth when they want it. You've trumped it up. You've built up excitement in the marketplace. You launch, it sells out immediately, and then people are trying to get it for their kids to put under the tree. And to your point, they're dealing with scalpers who are trying to charge 2-3 times. I just think it's not a good way to bring a new product into the market. I think manufacturers, especially Microsoft and Sony, who are world-class at supply chain management, they've got to do a better job in the future when they're launching new hardware platforms. And they need to make sure there's enough supply for the demand that's there. And I get it could be a strategy. Maybe there being a short supply generates more demand. And it's a whole go-to-market strategy that they're building out, but it's not necessary. People will buy it. They want to buy it. And I would argue it's a missed opportunity for them because people are willing, especially during the holidays, they're going to go buy it. And the holidays pass and it comes back in stock. And suddenly that sense of urgency, that push to get it isn't quite as strong as maybe it was because everyone's trying to buy right up into Christmas. And then once Christmas passes, suddenly everyone's a little bit more patient to pick up stuff. So I just think it's a huge missed opportunity for both Sony and Microsoft to get their hardware into people's hands and accelerate the adoption rate of the new platforms.
I agree. Tony, any thoughts?
Not very many. I mean, I've never been the guy that goes out on Christmas to buy the new consoles. So I just kind of wait, let things like cool down a little bit, and then always try to get them when I have to. When one of the games I really want to play comes out on that new platform, then I'm like, well, crap, now it's time to go buy it. So it'll happen. Yeah, but I do believe it's on the manufacturers. I mean, you can't, and like kind of what Chris said, I mean, if it's a strategy, it kind of makes a little bit of sense. It's not right, I don't think, but to kind of play it off, to build all this hype and then be like, we just don't have enough. We just, and then when are they going to be available? When is the majority of the consumers going to be able to go out and get one? Why can't they pre-order them? Why can't they go pay for it now? And, it'll be shipped to you. Like, even here's your number, check back in a month, or we'll email you and when your console's shipped, or you can pick it up or whatever. Can't you just go to GameStop? Isn't that where all people still go? Do people still go there?
I've been going to Best Buy a lot more recently, but well, go ahead. Finish your thoughts. Sorry.
No, that was it. I remember, God, I don't even know how many years. I felt like everyone always reserved things at GameStop because every time I go there just to buy the kids something, they're always like, hey, do you want to pre-order this or pre-order that, or you can put your money down on this, put your money down on that, and I just.
Well, and for these last consoles, and even for the graphics cards, it was impossible to pre-order them. Like they were sold out within minutes for a pre-order.
Well, that was the problem right there, because they launched and everybody bought them, and then the other problem, Trey, was that for retailers that had them in stock or briefly or whatever, they were, at least the SKU was listed. It was misleading for consumers because you could go to their site and you could actually get to the point where you could put it into your cart, and then it wouldn't let you check out. And so it was misleading. Then you had the bots that you talked about. Like, what a just demoralizing experience.
I got lucky. We're on the PlayStation 5. I follow Wario64 on Twitter, and he's all about like deals or new things. And it was like 2 a.m. on a Friday, and I saw him tweet saying PlayStation 5 available for pre-order. Nobody knew. They had not announced it or anything like that. So I clicked the link, went on Amazon, pre-ordered it. For the Xbox, because Sony got trashed for just not giving people a heads up that pre-orders were going live. For the Xbox, everybody knew when it was coming out, but it was a disaster because Target, Best Buy, GameStop, all these sites, they were all going live at different times. So you had to have 3 or 4 different browser tabs open. You had to have your payment information already filled out. So Microsoft was the same way. So you could add it to your cart and then hopefully try and check out. And there were multiple times where I had them in my cart and I wasn't able to check out. Finally, like 2 hours later, after Best Buy initially went live, again following Mario 64, he said, "Hey, Best Buy's back in stock." Boom, went on there, was able to get one, was able to check out, so I was able to get an Xbox Series X. Right now, today, if I could go to a website and pay for a 3070, I would do it, because to me then it's exciting. Now I know I have one. Now I get to wait for it to come in. I mean, I'd rather go pick one up, but it's like, you're waiting for that email. Hey, your graphics card is shipped. Hey, it's going to be there in 3 days. And I feel like once you've paid for something and you secured it, then you usually actually get it pretty quick, which is going back to Apple, is pretty much the way that they operate. So that was my experience anyway.
Yeah, they're going to have to improve that experience for sure going forward, especially as I don't know what their strategy is. They're going to continue to release more iterative improvements over the platforms and hardware over time, like they with the PS Pro, or they're not. There'll be an Xbox 6 or a PS6 or the next Xbox Series XX. But they do need to do a better job in general with Triple X. That's actually what they should go with. They got to do a better job though, just in terms of the amount of supply that's available when they do the initial release. So,
and I know we talked about this, but the naming of the Xbox is dumb.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Come on, man. And maybe their strategy is to confuse people, right? And they're doing a good job of that if that's the case. If it's a new system, just name it. You can keep the Xbox, right? But just call what we used to joke about, Xbox 820 or Xbox 720.
720.
I don't know. But don't shouldn't be so confusing for consumers. And for us, we know, we get it. But when a girlfriend or a wife or a mom goes into a store trying to buy something for their kids or for their spouse, their significant other, you get a sleazy sales guy behind the counter, and all of a sudden they're selling them a Xbox One X or whatever. I don't know. That's just.
Well, I don't know. Like if I'm I'm product marketing for Microsoft, and I go in my pitches, hey, we have the Xbox X, so let's launch the new gaming platform as an Xbox Series X. I don't know who signs off on that. Like some moron thought that was a good idea, and it's not by any stretch of the imagination. It just, also, by the way, it's a lazy name. Xbox Series X is incredibly. I think the PlayStation naming convention is perfectly fine. It's numerical, easy to follow. You know exactly what generation you're getting. No confusion whatsoever. I don't love their UI, as you know, Trey, but I definitely think from a naming perspective, they have the Xbox beat, because the Xbox, it's impossible to track, using common sense, how the names apply to the evolution of the system, unless you're following it all the time. To your point, a casual a gamer or somebody that just is sort of a casual consumer looking to possibly purchase it is potentially going to be confused and overwhelmed and might not buy it.
Agreed.
All right, guys. So we're going to switch gears, and we are going to go with a segment of the show that's new for the show, and something that's going to become a recurring theme, which is really talking about what do we hate. So there's so many things every day that we all deal with that drives us insane. We have our pet peeves. We see things that are happening that just drive us nuts. And so what we're going to start to do is introduce into this show certain things from each of us that we don't like, and then we'll discuss and debate it. And I'm going to go first. And so for today's show, for this segment, we're going to talk about the left lane and the proper use of the left lane. And so I like to drive fast. Trey, you know this. I do not like to drive slow. And so I use the left lane extensively. And so let me explain the way it should operate and what drives me insane. The left lane is not to go to speed limit. The speed limit is not an acceptable number to go in the left lane. At minimum, you need to be going, if you're on the highway and the speed limit is 70, the left lane needs to be going 80 to 85, in my opinion.
20%.
The way it works,
20% over, right?
Yeah. The way it works is the person from behind you sets the speed. If they're coming from behind you faster than you're going, you get out of their way. It doesn't matter if you think that you're going the right speed, you get out of their way, you let them go by, and you move back over into the left lane. Except if they're going egregiously fast, like they're going like 120 miles an hour and they're like, weaving in and out, they need to find their own path. But if you're in the left lane, you're going 85 and someone's coming up behind you going 90, 95, you move out, you let them pass, and then you move back into the lane. Nothing drives me crazier than when I'm trying to go in the left lane and some guy or gal is in that left lane going even the speed limit, sometimes even slower, and they're just not picking up on the fact that they shouldn't be in that lane, that they need to be in the middle of the lane or the right lane. The appropriate thing to do is to do a quick flash of the lights if they're there, and either you let them move over. Sometimes they don't like to do that, and that also drives me crazy. I'll absolutely always do that. So if they're going like really slow, I'll kind of flash them. But I mean, like, I won't do it like over the top. Like, I'll just give them like a quick flash. A lot of times, because sometimes the driver doesn't realize that they kind of forget at times. Maybe they're in the left lane, they're going a little bit slower than the traffic, and they're like, oh, let me kind of move out of the way. Because I've done that at times too. And someone will pull up behind me, they'll flash, and I'll kind of realize what I'm doing and move out of the way. So, but I'm like huge on being aware like of the lane you're in and the rules of those particular lanes, and just being respectful in the roadway. So drives me insane when I see drivers that are not following those same rules. So I don't know if you guys agree with me or not, but that's what I hate.
I'm going to kick this over to Tony, but quick question. What percentage of the time when you flash them do they get over?
75%.
Okay. So it's a pretty effective method.
Very
and
effective.
You're still alive, obviously, so okay.
Well, real quick too, I won't do road rage. So like, I'm really respectful. So even if someone won't move, then I'll basically acknowledge that, and then I'll just go around them. Like, there's no value in like yelling at someone in a car. They don't know who you are, you don't know who they are. There's diminishing returns. Like, you're not gonna get anything out of it. So I'll just go around them, and like, I won't cut them off either. Like, to do something like that. Like, I'll move, appropriate amount in front of them, and I'll just move over and move on. But it's always funny because I keep a view of them in my rearview mirror because I see the next car coming up behind them. It's going to go through the exact same thing with them.
Right.
And that car ends up going around them as well. So Tony, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I mean, left lanes for fast cars. As you know, I drive a Jeep Wrangler, so I basically drive a box on wheels. I wish I could go 85, but that thing, if I'm lucky to go 70 in that. So no, I am never in the left lane. Wow. It's been a long time since I've rode in the left lane. But so here's kind of my idea of that is, living out in the country here in Colorado, a lot of the roads are two lanes. You just have a left lane and you have a right lane, and then you have oncoming traffic with the median, usually grass in the middle, whatnot. So I think the rules apply the same. Left lane, they call it the passing lane. Left lane's for passing. Yep. So you're going in the right lane, you come up on someone that's going slow in the right lane, then you use the left lane for passing. So what I can't stand is when I'm approaching someone, and given, like I said, they got to be going hella slow if a Jeep Wrangler is pulling up behind them. So I'll move over to get to pass them. I'll move over to the left, and then all of a sudden I can tell they're speeding up, because now I'm having to floor my V6 that doesn't do anything just to get around them. And then I get in front of them, and now they're riding my ass. And I'm like, bro, you were going 55, speed limit 65. I just wanted to go a solid 65, because anything above that is pushing it. But I got another question for y'all. So, okay, so how does, in your minds or your opinions, how does the three lanes work? You got a right lane, you got a left lane, you got a middle lane. Does it go in order of speed then? Right is for the slowest, middle's if you're a little faster, but you don't deserve to be in the left lane, and obviously left lane's for the fastest.
Yeah,
What's
so
y'all's
definitely.
take on that?
So right lane is slowest because that's where you're exiting anyway. And so right lane's always going to be your slowest lane no matter what. And then to me, middle lane, if you just want to go the speed limit or slightly under, that's the middle lane. And then the left lane is when you want to go above the speed limit. But to your point, Tony, that's actually the worst. The 2-lane is actually more frustrating at times than the 3-lane because the 2-lane one, someone can be in the left lane going too slow and they're blocking any ability. Because even though it says for passing only, they'll stay in that lane. They won't move back over. So what I'll do on the 2 lanes is I'll pass, move to the right, and then when I catch the next person, I'll pass on the left and then move to the right. It's also smart to do when you got the 2 lanes. The cops are always looking for the people in the left lane anyway. So the smart thing to do is always stay in the right lane.
Cool. What about you, Trey?
So we should have another conversation about people riding bikes in the right lane on a major road.
Wait. Bicycles or
bicycles?
We'll invite Doug for that conversation.
Yeah. So we should have that. I respect and think everybody should exercise, but when you're riding on a major road and causing traffic, I think you might be putting yourself over others at that point. I agree with the left lane. I think if you're in the left lane on the highway, and me and Vanessa joke about this, like. You gotta be like about it. Like you gotta be about the left lane. Like
you're committed.
If you're there, like you better come with it. You're not in there. Oh well, I'm kind of cruising or whatever. Like if I get in the left lane, first of all I'm gonna go to the left lane for a little bit. Heart starts pounding. Kind of get over there. Okay, get a 80, 85, and I'm like, damn, okay, I'm doing it. And then I see a car coming behind me, and I'm like. This dude's crazy. I'm getting over. So I'm always aware of who's coming behind me, who's in front of me. But it is very frustrating when there's 2 other lanes here in Texas. Chris, me and here in Texas. Most highways have 3 lanes. So somebody that wants to drive slow or the speed limit or below, you have 2 options. So why are you in the 1 out of 3 option that doesn't support that? So that frustrates me. And then people are just unaware, they're on their phones and doing all this. And it's like, just be aware of what's going on. Just understand the rules. Now I see the middle lane. I like the middle lane because I see the middle lane as you have options, right? If a song comes on that I really like, start driving faster, start bobbing my head, I'll go fast and I'm going to go get in the left lane. We'll see though. You'll get a 4x4 lifted Ford truck going 95, and I'm like, okay, I'm just getting out of this guy's way. Like, hey, it's all good. And then I might get over there, but then I'm going in the middle lane because I have options. If the left lane is clogged up, and the middle lane is clogged up, I can go right, I can go around. If the right lane is clogged up, I can go left and go around. So I like the middle lane because it gives me options. And if I just want to chill, then I can just chill, and nobody's really trying to go too fast. So. I'm with you. Now, what I will say, especially here in Texas, is it seems like everybody is out to keep you from going where you're trying to go, right? So I try and do like a good deed of the day every time I'm driving and go against the grain of, oh, this guy's trying to get over. He has his blinker on. I'm going to hit my brakes, right? I'm going to let this person in. Now, what I will say, if I let you in, I expect a thank you. Throw me the deuce. Just throw your hands up. I'm always looking. You can see it through the back window, but I expect that. If I let somebody in and they just get in and they don't give me one of these, and I'm like, see, that's why it didn't happen all the time.
So it's interesting. So it doesn't bother me if they don't thank me. I just don't want them to slow me down. That's my whole mindset, which is I'll let any in front of me. I'll stop and do the same thing you're talking about, Trey, right? Because you need people to pay it forward to you as much as, right? Because everyone gets in those situations you got to get over.
Right.
My biggest issue is when someone's like really trying to get over and then they just slow you down. That drives me crazy. So I just don't want them to, like, they can acknowledge that I did it. That's cool, but it doesn't bother me if they don't. I just don't want them suddenly to like, where now I have to get around them. Like, then that really like just frustrates me.
So 2 things. So number 1, driving with you is an experience because you give commentary the whole time when you're driving. Get out of my way. What are you doing? Hurry up. I mean, but you're not, like you said, you're not road raging. It's just you're saying that, but you're doing the right things as you're driving. So it's an experience. Everybody, I highly recommend that you experience that. The best driver that I've ever seen, and Tony's a really good driver. I think I used to be a pretty good driver. I don't have the motor skills like I used to. Tony was a really, really good driver. Steve is the best controller of a vehicle I've ever seen in my whole life. I mean, like he could see things in slow motion that were about to happen, and he would drive fast, but there was never a panic. And he never says anything either. He's like Silent Bob, so he's going to get you there in 75% of the time. But I will say, every time I've driven with you as well, you get us there in a very, very short amount of time with no issues.
Yeah. I'm just opinionated about how I think everyone should be driving when I'm on the road. And so when they're not following what I think would be common sense rules of the road, I'm going to call it out. But yeah, to your point, Trey, I mean, like you said, you've driven with me. Like, I don't road rage. I'm not like overly aggressive. I just like to go fast. And I just don't want anyone to slow me down. And I don't know why anyone would drive differently, but hey, but it's cool. So it's a good conversation. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of some of the other topics are that we can introduce in some of the future shows. All right, so guys, so we're going to get to our final segment of the show. So one of the things about the Trey Show is we cover a lot of different things, and one of them is sports and sports betting. So we got the first week of the NFL playoffs coming up. This is actually one of my favorite sports weekends of the year because there's so many different games and there's so much on the line. So we're going to go through each of the games, and three of us are going to make our picks. We're going to talk about the spread, obviously who's playing who, and then we're going to keep track of our records throughout the playoffs. And then as we continue this segment into new seasons, this is something that we're going to always do. And then we're going to kind of keep our records between the three of us and, just see who's better at picking these things. Because I know for some of us, there'll be real money on the line this weekend for some of these games. Trey, I'm looking at you. So let's start with the first game. So Indy at Buffalo. So Buffalo's favorite half. So before I make my pick, Trey, let's do, and then we'll go to Tony, and then I'll close this out.
All right, so Indiana at Buffalo. Buffalo's the hottest team in the NFL right now. Obviously, everybody likes Kansas City. They're still good. Indiana, solid team. Frank Reich is their coach. Phillip Rivers is their quarterback. I thought they were going to be terrible. I thought Phillip Rivers was done. Having said that, Buffalo is so hot. Josh Allen is playing so well. The defense is playing so well. Give me Buffalo -6.5. In Buffalo, with some weather, you got a dome team traveling to Buffalo with weather. Give me Buffalo -6.5.
Okay. All right. Tony, what about you?
So I don't know the spread thing. I don't ever gamble, so I feel left out on that one. But football-wise, I'm going to go with Buffalo, man. That team, they're doing good this season. I'm happy that Rivers made it to the playoffs, though. That's pretty cool. I've been watching him for a long time. I'm a fan of him as a person, maybe not necessarily think he's the best player ever or anything, but he seems like a pretty good guy, like kind of country, super religious, whatever.
You always had him in fantasy.
I did for a long. When I first started playing fantasy, he's a solid backup, man. He's definitely a solid number 2, someone to have on your bench, kind of like another Roethlisberger, maybe someone that you can always keep. But for the game, I'm going to have to go with Buffalo. I think something's. I may go as far as saying I could go with them for the rest of the playoffs and into the championship. So let's see what happens. What about you, Chris?
So Bills have actually covered 6 of their last 8 home games, Trey, in terms of covering the spread. They're actually tied for second best cover rate at home in the NFL. I think I agree they're the superior team to begin with. I'm actually not a fan of Phillip Rivers. Tony, it's interesting that you are. I know. So Ben Roethlisberger is probably the only other quarterback I dislike as much as Phillip Rivers. Yeah, we'll get into the Steelers a little bit here in a minute. But to me, I think straight up Buffalo wins, and I also think they cover the spread. I agree with you, Trey, for all the reasons you called out, right? You got a dome team headed in, to one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in the NFL. The weather is probably going to play a factor to some degree. I just think Buffalo's, and I agree with you, Tony. I think Buffalo could take it all the way this year. So that's going to be an interesting game. I'm actually looking forward to that. All right, so we've all got Buffalo. So let's move to the next game. So now we've got the LA Rams against Seattle. Seattle is favored by 3.5. So Tony, we'll start with you. Who you got in this game?
Seattle in this one. I've always been a fan of their 12th man thing they got going on. So I don't know, man. Their receivers they got stacked on receivers with Metcalf. And if you got him, what else do you really need? Even though they've got a couple more that are just as good. And Lockett, I don't really even know who their tight end is, but I don't even think it matters. Metcalf and Lockett, deep. It's just I don't know about, is Carson back? I know he was injured, dude. I haven't watched any football in like 2 weeks.
Goff is back. Yep. Goff
No. Seattle's running
back. Oh, I don't know.
I think he was injured. He was out like half the season, I think, but it didn't even matter. I mean, Metcalf like the whole season. So I'm gonna go with Seattle. I do think the LA's got something going on, but I just don't think they'll be able to pull it off against Seattle.
Trey, what about you?
All right, so the Rams have been struggling. They have not looked good. Goff has not looked good. Goff hurt his hand, so he was out. They've had a lot of issues. Seattle have also had their struggles, which I'm surprised. Tony, you called out DK Metcalf. He's so freaking good. He's a beast. He's a monster. They obviously have Russell Wilson, but they've had their struggles as well. So I'm going to take Seattle straight up, but LA Rams plus the 3.5. So it just depends if you're betting the spread or straight up, because it's a division game, right?
We're picking off the spread, so you taking the Rams.
Well, I'm giving you, and I'm saying both. With the spread, I want the Rams, but I'm just calling it. Okay, so give me the Rams, but I'm saying the Seahawks are going to win straight up, but the Rams are going to cover. So if you're betting your buddy who's going to win straight up, take the Seahawks. That's an easy 3.5 at home. A little bit different home field advantage with COVID. You still get Russell Wilson. You still get DK Metcalf, but it's still the Rams. You still got Sean McVay. They still have the ability to have a high-powered offense. So I think the Rams cover. So that's my pick, Chris, the Rams. But I think Seattle wins straight up.
Okay. So I think Seattle's going to be...
Am I allowed to do that?
This is the Trey Show, so I think you're allowed to do whatever you want.
But you keep us in check, and you provide the structure, so I want to be respectful of that.
Well, the only pick that I'm writing down for you is the Rams, because this is about covering. So you picked the Rams. So it's good to see you deviate, because I'm actually going to go with Seattle, because I think Seattle obviously is tough at home. We talked about the 12th man, Tony. Goff is only a couple weeks removed from thumb surgery, and he's been inconsistent anyway.
He has.
Russell Wilson is still in the prime of his career, maybe starting to move toward the second half of the prime of his career. But I just like Seattle to cover at home. I just think they're a tough team. I think they've had some really good games this season. And I just see Russell Wilson going off in this game. It'll be interesting to see what the Rams front four can do to try and put some pressure on him. But again, Wilson's one of the best passers, both in the pocket and running outside of the pocket. I mean, he's just so versatile. So I'm going to go with Seattle to cover the 3.5. But I do like Trey. I like it that you've gone out on a limb and gone with the Rams. So this is going to be a fun game for us to watch.
Division game, man. Division game. Yeah. It's. I can't wait to watch it.
It's going to be a fun one. All right. So the next one that's going to be really interesting for us to watch is Tampa Bay of Washington. You obviously got Tom Brady, and then for us here in Dallas, the NFC East, just the debacle that was that entire division all year. So right now, Tampa Bay, even though they're at Washington, they're favored by 8.5. Now, usually a home team gets 3, so really that means the Tampa Bay is favored by 11.5. So Trey, start with you again. What do you think?
Yeah, so normally a home playoff team getting 8.5 points in the NFL, I'm a big fan of. If you can get a team that's at home that's half decent, so not the Jaguars and not the Jets, then you take the points, especially in the playoffs. However, we know how bad the NFC East is and was this year. Washington is not very good. I love the Alex Smith story. It would be great to see him win a playoff game. I think that's fantastic. I'm a big fan of his. However, you got the GOAT. You got TB12. I don't know that he has enough to go through the rest of the playoffs, but he at least has one in him. And I think Tampa Bay destroys him. So give me Tampa Bay and I'll lay
-8,
8.5.
-8.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike Evans is going to play. It's too much, too real
Hey,
for you, Billy.
I like the guts. All right, Tony, what do you got?
Yeah, man, Tampa Bay. I feel like it's gonna be it's gonna be one of those games where you're like, I don't even know why I'm watching this anymore. In my opinion, I feel like it. You got Gronk, Evans, Brady. I mean, yeah, I like Alex Smith, but I think Brady's gonna get pulled in the end of the third quarter because they're gonna be up by so much. They just want to save him. And but yeah, I do also feel like he's only got one. I feel like this is his one playoff win. You know, he came out of New England. Everyone was like, can he do it? You know, is he going to be able to play away from Belichick, you know, make it anywhere? Dude, he's made it to the playoffs. They're going to win the first game. And then if they go out, I mean, he should still go out with his head held high. As much as I can't stand Brady, I mean, yeah, he's the GOAT, dude. Like, you can't argue with it. I mean, you could try, but it is what it is. And I think Tampa Bay's I don't even think Washington's going to put up a fight. I mean, it'd be nice to see a good game, but I don't think it's going to be a good game.
All right, so this is where I'm going to deviate from you guys. So I agree. Washington shouldn't even be in the playoffs, but they're in the playoffs. And what you can argue is that once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. Now, part of the problem for Washington is their offense is horrible. They're actually ranked 31st in offensive efficiency in the league. But the Bucs have actually been a bit inconsistent, but they're still good. They still have Brady. And 8.5 points is a lot of points to cover. So I'm going to kind of go in with you did before, Trey. The Bucs are going to win this game. I don't think there's any question they're going to win the game. But when you take the points into account, I'm taking the points. And so I'm actually going to take Washington with 8.5 points. That's a lot of points in playoff football. In playoff football, you're playing to win, not to run the score up. And so when you're looking at 8.5, that's just really tough. And Washington has had their moments. So I'm going to count on them to do something. So I'm taking Washington, and then Tony and Trey, I got you guys at Tampa Bay. All right, next game. We got Baltimore at Tennessee. Baltimore is actually favored by 3.5. So we got another home team that's not favored. So Trey, we'll start with you again.
So I'm going Baltimore here. Man, that's a good game. I can't wait to watch it. And this is tough because I really like both of those teams. Baltimore got bounced, I believe, in the first round of the play. It was either their first game or the first round last year. They struggled for the middle part of this year, and they've just turned it on. They found another gear. Lamar Jackson's been playing awesome. Des Bryant has scored a couple of touchdowns.
He should have taken their deal when they first offered it to him, man.
It's one of those things where, man, I'm happy for him. I think that's really cool. Obviously near and dear to our heart for being a Cowboy, but seeing him go out there and have a little bit of success is really cool. I think Baltimore's a little bit more dynamic. I think they have a really good coach. Now Tennessee, obviously they have Derrick Henry. So I was going to say Baltimore has the best player on the field. I actually think Tennessee has the best player on the field. Derrick Henry rushed for over 2,000 yards this year. But I think you can stop – if you're willing to sell out, and Baltimore is always a physical football team, you can sell out and stop Derrick Henry. It's hard to – if Lamar Jackson plays well, you can't stop him because he can run, he can throw. I always remember the Cleveland game this year and what he did when he came back in after going doo-doo or whatever they said he was doing. But man, Mike Vrabel's a really good coach. I think Tennessee is so solid. I would not have a problem with them making a run. They're just not dynamic enough. Tannehill's played way above his potential. He's played really, really well. But and maybe he'll prove me wrong. I didn't think he was very good coming out of A&M. And he's proved me wrong where he's I don't know about a very good NFL quarterback, but he's a good NFL quarterback. What is that, a 7 on the IGN scale? He's a 7, right? So I can't wait to watch it, but I'll take Baltimore and lay the 3.5 on the road.
Okay. Tony?
I'll take Tennessee. I like Derrick Henry, so I think he's going to be – I think it's going to be a running game. He's going to pound it in. Tannehill, what do they call him? Journeyman quarterbacks. Like, he's kind of been around the league for a while. He's played with a few different teams. He was in Miami for a while, wasn't he? I mean,
Yep.
it's always been like he's another person that technically you could probably have on your fantasy team as your second string. If you needed a backup quarterback that could probably get you some points from time to time. I can't stand Baltimore. I always have hated them ever since they knocked the Cowboys out of the playoffs. What was that? Whatever game that was years and years ago.
Texas
the
Stadium.
last game at Texas Stadium. I was at that game. That's another reason.
Wow.
Who was that? Ray Rice ran all over us that game. So Jackson's a good quarterback, and I don't know. It's going to be a good game. I think it will be a good game, but I'm going to go with Tennessee just because of Henry. I think he's going to just run all over him.
All right. And I got Baltimore. So, Trey, you and I are viewing this one pretty similar. I think Baltimore is a more complete team. I completely agree. Henry's the best player on the field. He's going to get his yards. But, I think you can go one of two ways. You can either stack the line, force them to beat you but with the pass, or let Henry get his yards. And then you just know that you can outplay them, with their best player having his best game, and you're going to take away the rest of the field from them. So, I think there's some different things, but Baltimore has a rebuilt defense that's really solid. And their offense is dynamic. They can do a lot of different things. So I think Baltimore wins, and I think Baltimore covers. So, all right, a couple more games. So next game is Chicago at New Orleans. This is an interesting one. New Orleans is favored by 10. And so this is a big number. So, Trey, who you got?
It's Tony's turn to go first.
Tony, who you got?
New Orleans. I'll go with New Orleans. I shouldn't, but I didn't even know Chicago was made the playoffs. What the hell? Who's their quarterback? Is it Trubisky?
They lost, but they still got in because Arizona lost.
It's Trubisky? Is it still
Yeah.
Mitch, whatever his name is?
Mitch Kramer.
New Orleans, man, all the way. They've I haven't really been paying much attention to them this year, but Breeze is still playing. They've got some. Is Michael Thomas playing? He's still playing, isn't he? He didn't get injured. I think they'll do all right.
Oh.
I know he was out for a while. They're what do you call it? Swiss Army knife of a quarterback that comes in and relieves Breeze from time to time. That kid's got something special. I'll just go with New Orleans. Fuck Chicago.
All right, Trey, who you got?
So Chicago backed into the playoffs. Trubisky, who I'm actually a little bit of a fan of, a little bit of an underdog story. He's a dual threat. He can run a little bit. I always thought that he gave them a better chance to win than Foles. And Foles went on that magical run with Philadelphia and had, 4 or 5 really, really good games. Kudos to him. But seeing Trubisky come in, he won enough games to get them into the playoffs, although they did back into it. Having said that, give me the Saints. Lay the 10. They're just too good. And I Drew Brees, and I know he's got all the records, and Taysom Hill, and Taysom Hill's a badass. I don't know. They kind of get on my nerves, the Who Dat Nation and all that crap. But having said that, my money's on the Saints. Go Saints.
All right, so I'm going to deviate from you guys on this one.
Geaux Saints.
There's no question the Saints are going to win the game. I think New Orleans might be going to the Super Bowl, and I don't think Chicago has much of a chance to win. But man, 10 points is a lot. The other thing, remember too, is Breeze is still
has to go to Green Bay if they're going to go to the Super Bowl. Sorry,
that's going to be a good game. But Breeze is still recovering from his rib injury. That game a couple of weeks ago, watching him throw the ball, he was ginger. Now maybe he's better now. There's been a little bit of time for him, but I don't know that. I think I see them pulling him if they get ahead by a little bit, and then that gives Chicago a chance to kind of get a couple garbage touchdowns or whatever to kind of close the gap. To me, I see this as one of those ones where Chicago is going to get a late field goal or a touchdown. And it's going to close the gap and ruin a bunch of bettors' lives.
Yep.
I don't see them winning the game though. So I'm going to go with Chicago just because a 10 is a big number. That's like a college football number, not an NFL number.
The issue with laying the points, and even the same thing with Tampa Bay, New Orleans, think about it. New Orleans could be up by 16, right, in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes to go. They're okay with giving up a score.
Yep. They are. That's exactly right. That's why I think the big numbers are tough.
The backdoor cover is absolutely in play on numbers like that. So that's a good call. It's a good call. But
all right, guys, last game, which oddly might be the one I'm most interested in watching. It's Cleveland at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's favored by 6, which I find really interesting. I would have thought that they would have been favored by a little bit more than that. I'm very opinionated on this one, but Trey, we'll start with you.
I think you should go first. You haven't gone first yet.
Oh, thanks. It's simple for me. I hate the Steelers. There are a few teams in sports that I hate as much as the Steelers, and you know, Trey, that I'm not a fan at all of Roethlisberger for a lot of reasons. And I just refuse to pick the Steelers in any circumstance. So I'm going with Cleveland to win and to cover. And I do this knowing that both their coach and some of their players are all going to be out due to COVID, which is just such a Cleveland thing, right? They finally get into the playoffs. They have a great regular season and then shoot themselves in the foot by getting COVID. Like they just can't do that. Was it Tom Brady? I think that made a comment to his team, don't fucking get COVID. I think it was Tom Brady that did that said, we're in the playoffs. Everybody stay in your bubble. Don't get COVID. Let's go win this thing.
That's cool.
Probably, I'm imagining just when partying, and then they all basically come back with COVID. But I actually think this will be when I'm rooting for the Browns. So you talk about an underdog story, Trey. I think it'd be really cool for the Browns to actually finally win a playoff game and just kind of do something. And for me, it'd be a double win. Get to see them beat Pittsburgh at home for Pittsburgh. I just think that'd be amazing. So Trey, what do you think?
So I think Pittsburgh has a lot of issues. They were a team that was, God, how many games did they win before they lost?
They were on a roll. They were undefeated for a while. So
maybe 11 or 12. But Roethlisberger, and I'm opposite of you. I'm a Roethlisberger fan. I like him. I like the way he plays. Even now he's still so strong. He's slow, but he'll stiff arm people in the pocket and he'll move and he'll navigate. And I think I always had, being a Cowboy fan, I've still always had a ton of respect for how Pittsburgh plays the game and how they go about their business and their drafting and everything like that. So I like Pittsburgh. However, I think they're just so flawed. Cleveland, I think it's going to come down to Baker Mayfield, and not for the fact that he needs to throw 45 passes and throw for 4 touchdowns and 450. Cleveland's going to run the ball, right? They have a really, really strong running game with Chubbs. They're going to run the ball. What Baker needs to do is have a very efficient 20 or 25 passes, right? He needs to have 250 yards, a touchdown or 2, and he needs to go, 15 of 23 or something like that. He needs to not turn the ball over. He needs to not force it, because I think on paper they're the better team. So he needs to be smart enough to go, man, let's go in here. Let's play our game. Let's run the ball. Let's run these guys down. And I think they have a really good chance to win the game. The COVID thing, that's unfortunate. I think their coach is really good, so it sucks not have him there. But I think they'll be okay beyond those things. So no doubt I would take Cleveland, or I will take Cleveland plus a 6. That's way too many to pass up. But I also would take them to win straight up.
All right. That's actually surprising. I'm very happy to hear you take that position. Tony, what about you?
I'm going to go with Cleveland for a few reasons. I think Mayfield's going to be able to pull it off this year. I don't know. I didn't like him coming out of college. I thought he was going to wind up being another Manziel, another Johnny Football, super cocky kid. Kind of seems like he's matured over the year. And, what has he got, like 6 or 7 commercials now? So he's trying to be like Manning or something like that. That's kind of cool, whatever. And I think I'm doing it too because of the fan base, man. It's the Browns. I used to work with someone that was from Cleveland that would fly up and watch a game usually during like the coldest part of winter a year, and they would always bring back pictures to us for us to look at work, and it was just like so many fans. Like, they're not fair weather fans, obviously, up there. It's negative degrees, the wind's blowing, they're out there cooking, having a good time, and a lot of those people have stood by that team for so long to see them make it to the playoffs finally, and out of all that to play the Steelers. It's kind of like that, Ohio State football kind of shit. Like, it's cool. It's a good rivalry. It's going to be a good game. I can't stand Roethlisberger as a person, just because of some choices he's made in the past.
Yep.
But yet I've always had him for the most part on my fantasy teams. Back to the Palomalo days, Jerome Bettis,
Wow.
Heath Miller. Like, I kind of like the Steelers at one point.
Hines Ward.
Hines Ward, yeah, definitely.
So does that make you the Jerry Jones of fantasy football then? That regardless of character, all you care about is
basically
stats
a good
and W's.
fantasy football player, man.
Pretty much. Yeah, I could care less. I don't really care what you've done. If you can give me some money, I'll put you on my team. You can punch babies in the face. It's cool. Come on, get on my team.
Well, you and Jerry Jones have a lot in common then.
Yeah, I mean, hey man, I don't badmouth Jerry either. It's cool, whatever. But no, I think the Browns are going to do it. I hope the Browns are going to do it. So I'm gonna go for them because I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be pretty evenly matched. If I had to do a win spread, the Browns by 3.
All right. Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right, guys, that brings us to conclusion for the final segment of the show. So Trey, I'm going to hand it off to you to close it out for us.
Thanks, Chris. So everybody, thank you guys for watching. We obviously have a blast doing these shows and putting them together, and we're all friends outside of the show, so this is just an opportunity for us to get together and talk about things that we would normally talk about, and obviously get to talk some sports. So we really hope you guys enjoy them. We're just starting to get all of our videos out. I believe we have 3 on YouTube right now. We should have 6 within the next couple of days, and then we're just going to keep on pumping them out. So please like the show. Please like the video. If you guys enjoyed it, please subscribe. Please share. Obviously, getting the show out to as many viewers as possible is huge for us, and we're just we were talking about this before, we're just kind of doing a soft rollout to see what everybody likes. So also, please comment. What do you guys like about it? What do you guys not like about it? Tell Chris how much you like him and the things that he says. Chris is my favorite. Vote on that. Vote on that. But we really want to get the feedback from you guys so we can tailor the show to what you guys want to see. But we're having a blast doing it. We're so excited about what we've been able to do and just to get some videos out. So we'll keep on getting better and keep on tailoring it to you guys.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks. Great show. See you next time.
Take care.